One, the goal for today is to have a look at our top 10, do a little bit of an update on the top 10 on. So Sunday's your day of basically determining what you're going to do for the week ahead. So part of that is reviewing your systems, looking at the long shorts, the daily price action on your daily chart, the volatility. So we're going to have a look at all of those things, but we're going to have a look at on just one market, obviously in one system. We'll have a look at our top 10 and where the top 10 is being set as far as this week, and whether there's been any systems moving in the top 10. I've looked at probably the top 12 or 13 strategies, but there's a couple to add there, so I will go through that spreadsheet. The other thing I want to do is, as I mentioned before, is spend a little bit of time on our key reversal. Now I'll apologise for my voice because I'm getting the flu, but the key reversal is going to be one of the obviously the new price action strategies. I'm pretty excited about it because they're everywhere. But what we need to do as a group, and what we need to do when we get the strategies, we need to be able to identify the pin bar reversal all the time clearly, and the pin bar reversal is what it is. There's no kind of if buts or maybes. It's a very clear setup. So that's good for us, because what does that mean for us as far as programming? It means that it's very easy for us to be clear on what a setup is, because a lot of the challenge, or some of the challenges that we face when we're putting together systems, is that we have this idea, or we visualize this concept in our mind and we see it on our charts, and we think that that occurs over and over again. But there are sometimes in that situation a lot of different combinations of that setup. So at least with this very clear, specific, simple strategy, it's going to be very easy for us to identify those in the market. So I wanted to jump in and have a look at the pin bar setup on the 15-minute chart. So what you'll see is that, and this applies to the forex markets and the futures markets, you'll probably find that there are certain time frames and certain markets that you'll find work really well with a particular setup. So it's going to be up to you to find that setup, or like rely on the group, obviously, because the group will be alluding you to, or letting you know where the best setups are, which I'm finding the 15-minute crude is really good, and here's a good case in point here. So a couple of the things we touched on Wednesday were that, okay, well, we need to see that there was a bit of a trend. We need to see, if we're looking for a pin bar reversal, we're looking for a couple of things that we're looking for three specific things that have to be present in a pin bar reversal. We need to see that the nose is 3 times the body. So if we look at this as our pin bar, you can see that our nose is definitely 3 times our body. You can see the wick is very strong there. We need to see a close within the previous candle. You can see that our previous candle was a bullish candle, so we've definitely got a close within that previous candle. The other thing is the nose must be protruding from all other price candles, or all other candles, and you can see that that clearly does protrude. We don't want to get into a situation where we've got pin bars that we're taking that are in a cluster, because the cluster pin bar is one that is a little bit 50-50. You're going to find that if you start looking for those type of setups, you're kind of trying to find setups, and you're trying to make the system do something that it shouldn't be doing. So the pin bar reversal, very specific. They're your 3 key criteria, and then we layer upon that the opportunity of confluence, where we're looking for other elements to help us get into this setup. So for us, it would be resistance, so either a key level or our GMT support resistance. So you've got that as well. So they're just some of the things that you're going to look at for a potential reversal entry. Now remember that once the pin bar sets up, that's not it. We're not just taking the pin bar on the pin bar setup. We've got to see the next candle show that it's broken that support area, or that area of support. So you might, for example, have your pin bar set at the low of this candle here, or you may set it up on a break of the previous uptrend. So it depends on what your entry requirements are or what you're looking for as an entry. But if you're taking a pin bar reversal, you need that confirmation of the entry. So either way, you're looking for a break of that previous support, and you can see that candle there clearly does that. You're looking for a break of the previous trend line move, so that's another way of getting into the pin bar. Or you can use the moving average, either one. So you've got a number of ways we can get in, but we need to identify that we actually have a pin bar set up. So the pin bar is as I said, it's quite simple. It's a nice, easy, simple strategy. And you can see that this did really well. Now, where was our stop? We mentioned our stop on Wednesday. Where does our stop sit on the pin bar? Anybody know where the stop sits on? If we're taking a short pin bar, at the high of the setup bar. So that pin bar is, and would we have it right at the high, or are we going to allow a couple of ticks, a couple of pips, or a couple of ticks above that price? Yeah, we need to leave some room, don't we? Because that's an area of, we need to leave a little bit of room because that's an area of resistance. So we've got to allow for that. So that is our pin bar. And let's have a look at how this one played out. This one was quite nice because you had the initial move down, and then price tried to rally a little bit from this level of support here at 44.50, and it didn't do anything, and it just pushed down beautifully there. So a very, very nice run down and run lower, and depending on what your exit point was or your goal there, typically we want to run these pin bars at 3 to 1. So that's what we're looking for as a move. So that will at least give us a base point for our risk to reward on our systems. So anytime you're doing your testing on these pin bars, always look for that 3 to 1 as your ratio, because your probability will pick up as you run your identify the better probability charts to trade. So it's a lot of the time it's going to be a chart specific system, as we know, and your probability will increase, and with your reward to risk, you're going to do exceptionally well because you've got that 3 to 1 or better. So so how would I play this if I'm running a 3 to 1? What's the best combination to lock in a 3 to 1 but also take advantage of bigger moves? What would be my best combination of inputs to do that? If I'm looking for this pin bar reversal trader and I'm wanting to take a target of 3 to 1, and I'm looking at my GMT inputs and I'm thinking, right, well, if I run a fixed target, then I'm locking in profit. What else could I use to take advantage of the volatility of a move for a target? So there's a couple of tools we can use. We can use the MACD-BB. We can use the moving average, yeah. We could use the trailing stop, so either one of the trailing stops. We could also use the VM target, which is a ratio of the VM. So isn't it? So if we add in the VM indicator here, and we'll do that now. Just add that in. So our volatility indicator, our VM indicator, tracking volatility. As the volatility rises, so does the value. So if our initial target is set at, say, let's pick the point where we get into the market, and we'll bring up our data window, because that's obviously going to help us to determine what our values are. So if we look at our value here, we'll bring that up. So we have a value there of around 0.65. So if that, as price starts to move, or as price starts to move in our favour, if our initial target is 65, so 65 ticks, what's going to happen as the volatility spikes on this and we have a ratio of our VM? Because remember, this value here, this VM number, that's going to be our target. So as the VM number starts to climb, what happens to our target? If we've got a ratio of our VM number as our target. So our VM number is 0.65 or 0.065, which is going to be represented as 65 ticks. So what happens here? So that's reflected as 65 ticks or $650. What happens when and if we've got a ratio, if we've selected a ratio target on our profit, what happens when our number increases to our profit target? If our number goes from 0.65 to 0.85, which it does here, what's our new dollar value, our new dollar value target? Yeah, that's it. So basically what you're doing is you're working out, right, well, if I'm going to trade a system, it doesn't matter whether it's the pin bar reversal, the trend trader, it doesn't really matter. You're trying to determine what is the best way, what target am I served best with to get the most out of these markets. And if you're finding that you're looking at your charts, and we've done this a few times where we've looked at our charts and we've thought, well, this is great, but I'm missing a little bit of the profit on the table, then it's time to go back and look at what's the best target to use in this system on this market. So that might require you to do a little bit of testing and determine, right, well, because we spend a lot of time on setting up the trailing stop, setting up our initial stop, going through and looking at making sure our entries are right, making sure our filters are good. But what you want to do is make sure that you spend an equal amount of time, or a lot of time, a good percentage of your time, working out how you're exiting the market, how you're taking profit on your system, because there is always going to be a best way or a best method for the system and market you're trading. And the thing is that not every system and market line up perfectly with each other. You're going to find that they all have these little anomalies where some things work really well on some markets, others don't work as well. So it's really good to give your systems that individualized touch and just become a little bit more familiar with what works best for the market and system you're doing. And you'll find that as you hunt through these charts looking for the optimal pin bar setups, the frequent pin bar setups, you're going to find that you'll hit a chart that just delivers a lot of them. So you'll see it in the Forex markets. There's specific chart types that, whether they're hourly, 15-minute, 4-hourly, that constantly deliver a certain type of setup. And all you're doing is you're mining for that setup. So you're looking for that setup to be occurring all the time, and then applying your rules. So once you've found your edge, all you're doing then is making sure that your numbers match and your numbers are consistent. Like 3-to-1 we're looking for on this particular setup. We're wanting to make sure that all our requirements are met, but we also don't want to miss out on tapping into the opportunity for bigger numbers to come our way. And we have to do that by adding in that volatility target. So that's just a little bit of I thought I'd kind of touch base on the pin bar again. We're going to talk a little bit more about it on Wednesday night. There's a lot of what I'm going to talk about on Wednesday night is I'm going to go through a lot of examples of when not to take a pin bar. So when we write our code, as we're writing our code for this strategy, you're going to find that it's very specific in identifying when to take the trade setup. So that's what we want to make sure that we're getting through, and that we've got that layer, those several layers of application for the pin bar. Because even though there's a pin bar reversal here, it's always good to have a look at that higher time frame as well and see what's happening there. So guys, that's just a bit of a review of the pin bar again. A nice setup on the 15 minute on crude. I'm going to pick a different market every week and every session. So we'll start seeing, all right, well, where else do we see the pin bar reversal setup on crude oil? You know, how frequently does it happen on the 15 minute? Because you may be scanning a couple of different charts and markets just for your pin bar. This might happen once a week or twice a week, but you want, if you're someone who's more actively trading, you might want to have, you know, pin bars firing off every day. So if that's the case, there might be a cluster of charts and markets that you're scanning and watching. All right, guys. So that's the pin bar. I'm going to bring over here our top 10, and it's been an interesting week because there hasn't been much movement in our top 10. However, one of our systems needs to be, or a couple of our systems need to be reviewed and re-optimized. So I'm going to do that today. Not too much of a difference. The interesting thing is that the PEN 15, that pennant breakout, which is another price action system, it delivers big numbers. Like you can see, the profitable numbers are big, but the risk obviously is set at that 2K mark. Now, equally as good a system, but not taking anywhere near as much risk, is this PEN 11. So even though we've got a couple of $1,000 clearance at the top there on that strategy, the risk to reward, or the risk per week, is much better on that second system. So our drawdown on that system is a lot better, more manageable, and it still has the opportunity to deliver these bigger profits as well. So keep an eye on that. If you haven't downloaded it, have a look at it. But that strategy there is just a simple breakout. So it's basically, and I'll go back to the charts for a second. If we get this consolidation where you've got price consolidating, and you've got higher highs, higher lows, then, or lower highs, higher lows, then this breakout, this pennant formation, that's basically the catalyst for that breakout strategy. So it uses the pivots again. It's working off the pivot formation. So the pivot high, pivot low. Once it gets 2 pivots high and 2 pivots low, or once it gets out, it counts back 2 pivots. So it's looking for a lower pivot high, a second lower pivot high, and a higher pivot low. So it's looking for that contraction in the market. When it has that, it can form the pennant, which you can see here, and all that flag formation. And then once that occurs and price breaks that area, then we get a trade set up. So it's a fairly simple strategy. Obviously, you're determining the frequency of trades and the size of the trades, and you're doing that by using your pivots. So if you have a look at your pivots here, let's go into our pivot. We'll go to show me. So the pivot high, pivot low, just for those of you who are new and haven't seen it, or wanted just a quick refresher, the pivots will come up in these little dots here on your screen, the red and the cyan. So obviously, if you're going to want a lot of trades, you're setting that at a low pivot count, so a 3 or around that value. If you want a high pivot count and less trades, you're going to set that at, say, 10 or 15. And you'll see what happens when I change this chart. This is a 15-minute chart, but if I jump in here and change these pivots to a higher value, we'll see that they'll disappear off the chart. Well, there'll be less of them on the chart. So let me go into the right area. So I'll change this to, say, a pivot. Now there is one key with this strategy, with strategies that use pivots. The thing is that you can see that they appear a lot less. There's less frequent pivots on the chart because the count's a lot higher at 9. But one thing, anytime you're using pivots, and this is kind of something to avoid, try not to really ever have your pivot count over 30, because in real time it's very difficult for trades to set up if their count is too high, because the system will be waiting for so many bars to close past your pivot for it to print that pivot. So the longer that occurs, the more or the less likely or the less accurate your system is going to be as far as using pivots to identify a trade setup. So ideally what you would like to do, particularly on this breakout strategy, is have these pivots 30 or less would be your optimization. So if you're optimizing a strategy, and we'll go into, I'll just see if I've got a pivot strategy opened up here. No, I don't. I'll open one up in a minute. But if you're optimizing one of those pennant strategies, you definitely want to make sure that you've got the pivots set with an input of no greater than 30. Alright guys, so I'll come back to that a little bit later on, but what I want to do is I want to just touch base on, as I said, the top 10. We're going to have a look at a couple of the systems here, and we're going to have a look at what's been really working well. So just mentioning gold, the two systems there, the second system looks to be the better of the two, purely based on risk. Nick's strategy there again on the failed trend did really well, and it's starting to creep up into that second place. So this is a new system, not new to Nick because he's been tracking it for almost 7 months, but new to us because he sent it to us and we're watching it, and it's doing really well. So it's moved from outside of that top 10 place to so it's collecting some nice profit on a weekly basis. What is the bond system here? Is anybody tracking bonds or trading bonds? Bonds are obviously a higher tick value or a higher value as far as cost per point value, but is anybody tracking bonds? Because this bond system, this cycle trader bond system, is doing really well. No one on the bonds, okay. Okay, so rolling through, we had the Viper system again, just nice and solid there, but there wasn't really, it was a little bit of a mixed bag in that top 10 this week. So you're going to get that sometimes. You're going to find that we had a really good week last week, and then a bit of a break-even week this week. So what we're looking for is kind of smoothing that out, so we're just consistent every single week. So trying to get it to the point where we've got more strategies in this top 10 that are just more and more consistent, and trying to drop some of these, or not drop, but just improve some of the drawdown and risk value on some of the higher end systems. So if we can, having these more profitable systems, but having a lot less risk with them. So similar to what we've got with that Pen 11. So guys, that's a bit of a kind of an update on our systems there in our top 10. I'm just going to preview a couple of them because I wanted to just run through this Fortress Swing one for a second. So my process on a Sunday is to go through and just check the systems I'm tracking and trading, and go through and look at the other ones as well where I've got time. So if I've got a system that I'm watching that I want to add to my top 10 on my portfolio, I'm generally going to see how it's running on crude. I'm going to see how it's running on the daily chart, and you can see here this system here. This is the optimized version of this strategy, this Fortress strategy. Now, it was tracking beautifully, but this week slightly negative, couple of losing trades. But I always want to know what's happening with my daily chart. You can see the volatility is dropping away a little bit there. The other thing I want to know is what's happening with the pilot system, the system that's trading every single day of the week. So I've optimized the strategy, and it's basically my best system. I can't do much more than that, except for I can go through and check to make sure every day of the week is fully optimized, and I've got every day of the week is making money. I don't want to trade systems that don't make money on a specific day. So if I'm running that kind of an arrangement where I've got a high performance system that only trades a couple of times a week or 3 or 4 times a week, I've always got to have my eye on that my system that trades every day, don't I? Because I've excluded some days of trading, and I've actually taken those days out, and I need to keep an eye on what's happening with those days. So I've been tracking this pilot system here, and what's been happening is some of these days are starting to really make some good money. They're still taking small trades, but they're getting some really big results. So in that situation, it's just a reminder that you've got to keep your eye on the system that is, the system that you're running it, and system. When you review your system on a weekly basis, you've got to make sure that you're counting every day, or you're looking at every single day, because the opportunities could potentially be missed if you don't. So when you look at your system, definitely go through that daily review, looking at every day of the week, and you can see there it's not trading. It's not trading a lot, obviously, but there's some good profit being made there that we need to review and have a look at and modify for this week. So obviously some of the days of the week are back on and trading well. So we just need to jump in and make that adjustment. So have you, with your review, is everybody doing that? Is everybody, I guess the question is everybody having a look at their, if you've been kind of monitoring your high performance system and you've got it trading really well on, say, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it hasn't been making money Tuesday, Thursday, is everybody continuing to look at Monday, Tuesday, just to make sure that those days are still are no longer profitable, or they have become profitable? Is everybody doing that as part of their process on a weekly basis? Yeah, look, it's easy to miss because you can get caught up in optimizing the system you've got. So the system you've got, once you do all that work, like you spend a lot of time putting a system together, once you do all that work, you've decided that, all right, well, the last 6 months have been terrible for the first 2 days of the week. So I might as well just take a long weekend, not trade Monday, Tuesday, because that's not making any money at all. It's like having a shop and opening the doors, no one comes to buy anything. So if I open on a Wednesday, ready for business, I'm making money, and I get 2 days back in my life. But it's just a case of reminding us that, well, those 2 days actually could start making money, and it's a seasonal. It comes back to being a seasonal thing as well. There'll be different changes in the market where money comes in and out of the market at different times and different days. And if you've ever watched the DAX market, it's so true on that market. That market is almost ridiculous as far as changing the profitable days of the week over a 12-month period. So if you do some analysis and build a system on the DAX, you'll see that the days of the week profitability go in clusters of almost 3 or 4 months at a time, and you've got to be really, really prepared for reviewing your system every week to see where those days are changing or where the money flow is changing. So that's what we want to do with our systems. We want to make sure that we don't develop that bias and say, right, well, this system here is only a 3-day system. Don't worry about the rest, because as you can see quite clearly here, I need to go back, have a look at this 3-minute chart, and find out which days are making the money and add that to our new system, because obviously there's some profitability coming there. We don't want to just jump in and add the days because they've made money. We've got to qualify that by making sure that, one, it wasn't just one freakish trade, it wasn't like an outlier. It still needs to meet our requirements of having a bounce in profit, and we start to seeing some the percentage win rate picking up as well. So there are criteria there, but that's one good thing to look at for this week's review. Go through, do your system review, have a quick look at your days of the week, make sure you've got them set up properly. I'll transfer these systems over to our Dropbox. So we're in week 19 now, so we're actually clicking into week 19. We're in week 19. So those systems will be dropped into the Dropbox. I should have some preliminary stuff for you next Sunday with the price action system. It'll just be the one that we're going to look at initially, as doing some testing on. So that reversal strategy will be the pin bar reversal will be the first system we release. That'll be the first one, and then we'll kind of add in the a couple of the other strategies as we go along each week. So the next 2 or 3 sessions we'll be spending more time on the pin bar reversal, looking at a couple of the forex setups, because the forex market is a fantastic market to identify our pin bar reversals on. So we'll do a little bit of work on the euro yen and the pound yen and the euro USD for looking at our pin bar reversal, similar to what we did on Wednesday night. And then next Sunday we'll kind of get a look at doing some optimization on the pin bar reversal. So I'll have that to run through the room with you guys and have a look at the pin bar. Now remember too that just a bit of an update, because a bit of a members update. I've just recruited another coder, so we're actually going to be pumping out some systems fairly quickly here. So we've got a second coder on board who codes in both TradeStation and MT4. So our price action systems here that we release, we'll be doing a dual release. So one will be in TradeStation, one will be in MT4. As members, you'll get access to both. So if you are running TradeStation and doing the commodities, and then you're playing with the forex market and you're delving into to MT4, you'll have access to both systems. So that's all good. And don't forget too, if you are I've got the gentleman we've recruited as well is also codes in multi-charts. So we'll get all our multi-charts, our coding, our backlog there up to date as well. We've got our forex exits that we're going to kind of get him to finish off and get that set up. And we're also doing the tracker A, tracker B for multi-charts. There's a couple of other things we're adding into multi-charts. So we'll make sure that we get all of our code moved over to multi-chart. So for those of you, I know Richard does, and there's a couple of others that use multi-charts. We'll make sure that all of the systems are available there as well. So that'll be good. So we'll have a good bank of strategies for the 2 new platforms. So guys, thank you for your time. I'm not going to tie up any more of your Sunday. Have a fantastic weekend. I look forward to catching you on Wednesday. As I said, I'll drop those in the box later today or later tonight. I'll drop that video in for last week as well, so I'll get this one and last week's video uploaded, because it's good to just do a little bit of a review on that pin bar reversal. I thought that was a good run through we did on Wednesday, and it's good to kind of have that as a refresher. So thanks for your time, guys. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you on Wednesday. Cheers.